Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of The Real Podcasters. This is a weekly podcast where we discuss all things movies, TV shows, video games, and a bunch of other things in no particular order. My name's Regan as your host, and I'm joined once again by my spectral co-host. It's Dan.
Spectral co-host. I may as well be undead at this point. I already feel like I'm undead, so... Hello, you. Slimy spectre.
I've been called worse, to be honest. So, thank you very much for tuning into this week's episode. We really do appreciate it. Last week, we spoke about George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead in a surprise twist when we said we'd talk about the Snyder one, realising we didn't have anything to talk about, so...
We didn't really have anything to talk about that hadn't already been talked about.
Yeah, exactly. That's always the worry with me and podcasting is... whenever we cover a specific topic, are we just going to sound like everyone else? In this case, this week, I'm very curious as to how we're going to sound because we're talking about Ghostbusters Afterlife from 2021, otherwise known as Ghostbusters 3, unless you count the reboot, from which case it's Ghostbusters 4. It's Ghostbusters. Ghostbusters, even though there's not an A in it, so I've kind of had to cheat there. Yeah, so this one is directed by Jason Reitman, the son of Ivan Reitman, who directed the previous two original movies, not counting the reboot from 2016. I'm going to ask Dan to give us a brief synopsis of what the hell is going on in this bloody afterlife.
Well, this is just going to be a truly awful synopsis because I haven't watched this in a long time. I haven't actually rewatched it. I haven't had the time to rewatch it. So, here it goes, just off the absolute bat. Basically, Elon Spengler is in a house on his Todd, dies, and then his distant relatives inherit said house, and they basically become Ghostbusters, and that's all you really need to know. Spooky things happen on a farm, which kind of just sounds like a Ghostbusters Children of the Corn mashup.
Don't say Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
And Texas Chainsaw.
Oh, that's okay. Actually, that's better than the Ghostbusters Chainsaw Massacre.
Texas Ghostbusters Massacre.
Being chased around by Slimer with a chainsaw.
Somehow that is even more terrifying than the actual film.
Yeah, all of a sudden, yeah. So... this particular film had, a bit of a journey leading up to it. Of course, we got the reboot in 2016 because Harold Ramis, who played Egon Spengler, passed away in 2014. Sony had tried quite hard to actually produce a Ghostbusters 3. They had a script ready and everything. The closest we ever actually got, I believe, was the Ghostbusters video game, which I believe incorporated elements of what they wanted to do, namely...
I've just literally totally forgot up until you mentioned that there was actually a Ghostbusters game. I haven't played it. Yeah,
I never played it, to be honest. No, I didn't. But that technically is the last time that Harold Ramis portrays Egon Spengler.
Bloody hell.
And then, of course, we got the reboot because Sony chickened out and realised, we're going to have to do a reboot. No, you don't. Yeah. So, Afterlife already had a bit of controversy leading up to it, because some people thought, they could have easily done a sequel to the reboot. No, they shouldn't have done. So, obviously... now we've got a legacy sequel in the era of many a legacy sequel.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not exactly a unique thing at this point.
Oh, it really isn't. I appreciate the ones that go a bit more meta, which in reality is actually the recent Scream movies actually that do that. Mm-hmm. And surprisingly enough, that is not going to be the only reference to Scream I'm going to make in this episode, weirdly enough. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
Bit concerned now.
So, reactions-wise for Afterlife has been quite interesting. Like, there's some people who really like the film, and there's some that absolutely despise it. This is an interesting one for me because I've only seen this movie twice. I saw it in cinemas when it came out in 2021. I remember giving it a really high review. Well, a high rating, but I never actually reviewed it. Then I rewatched it at the end of last year, and the rating went down. I still didn't actually leave a review because I couldn't really articulate my thoughts properly on what I had issues with. Because I've got issues with this. Like, really bad issues. That being said, I do still like the movie. Like, genuinely. I shouldn't go into these expecting like it's going to be absolutely amazing.
Yeah, you're not gonna go into
never
it
gonna,
thinking it's gonna be like living up to the original film. It's just not gonna. Let's be honest.
Well, exactly. You know, it's a bit unhealthy to assume it's going to be an absolute masterpiece because Ghostbusters, on concept alone, sounds like it wouldn't work at all. So it's just pot luck that that ended up being terrific. When it comes to Afterlife, I think the first half of the movie is really, really good. Like, legitimately great. There's just a moment about midway through when it absolutely just blows this metaphorical load on, like, hey, do you remember Ghostbusters? Let's do all the things from Ghostbusters. Which is fine, whatever. But there's just little choices that the film makes that really surprisingly gets me in a way I didn't think a Ghostbusters movie would. I am curious though, Dan, because I don't really know your thoughts on this. What's your general thoughts on Ghostbusters? We're back being Ghostbusters. The Ghostbusters are back. He's doing a weird face, so either he absolutely detests this, or is this going to be a reverse Halo Infinite, and you're going to say, oh, this film's actually brilliant. It's amazing.
Right. Okay, I've got to track back quite a bit here. I didn't see this when it came out in cinema. In fact, I didn't see this until bloody hell, the back end
Last
of
year,
like
I think it was
2022. Maybe even.
Oh, was it?
Oh yeah, like a long time after it came out.
Was it that long ago before we actually decided? Jesus Christ!
Yeah.
Okay.
So I never saw it in the cinema. Really wanted to, but never did for one reason or the other. No idea why, but anyway. So I eventually caught it on. Couldn't even say what streaming service it was on. I think it was Prime Video or something like that. So I was like, okay, well, I can actually just finally watch it now in Ultra HD because they put the Ultra HD one on for whatever reason. I don't know, maybe they were just feeling Ghostbusters today. At the first time, I mean, much like yourself, I've only seen this twice. First time seeing it, I really liked it. Gave it quite a high rating. I think like a 4 out of 5.
You're just seeing the exact same script that I just said.
Yeah.
So.
But I think it was like 4 out of 5 I gave it. Then on the second time, I was like, this isn't as good as I liked it the last time. And there are certain things about it which I can't quite like say this is what's wrong with it because it's difficult to say what is wrong with it. I just don't think it is as good. And it's just down to just maybe not liking it as much as I did. It's one of those films where like the more you watch it, I think the more you're not gonna like it. So I don't really want to watch it in future because you know what, if I watch it again and then I'm like, yeah, 1 star, crap. You know,
It's
terrifying.
It's a similar feeling it's a similar feeling I had when I rewatched The Flash this week. Just because it happened to pop up on Now TV, and I thought I'll give it a rewatch because I haven't seen it since I saw that in cinemas, and that one I was really positive on.
Oh, overly positive compared to other people.
I mean, I still quite like it. I don't think it's as terrible as everyone else says, but it still went down. And because I love that original Ghostbusters movie so much, I was also quite nervous at the idea of revisiting Afterlife and thinking, am I gonna dislike this? Because, like I say, I didn't actually write a review for it. It was one of the rare times that I didn't review a brand new movie that's quite big as well. So yeah, going into the rewatch, I was quite nervous. So we'll get into the into the meatier stuff of this movie. So despite the fact that they're trying to keep a lid on this in regards to the familial connection with the new characters in the original Ghostbusters, because for some reason they decided to hide that, even though you have a look at McKenna Grace's character of Phoebe, it's fairly bloody obvious which family members she's actually related to.
Yeah, I mean, you can't exactly, it's the glasses, it's the hair, it's the intelligence.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of like, well, it's definitely got to be Bill Murray's Sprog, without a doubt. Yeah,
so we focus on this new generation of Spenglers, specifically focusing on Phoebe, as I say, played by McKenna Grace, as well as you've also got our mother Callie, played by Carrie Coon, and you've got Trevor, played by Finn Wolfhard, who I feel like is only here because he dressed as a Ghostbuster in season 2 of Stranger Things, so they thought, that's fine, we can capitalise on that.
Yeah. It's like, well,
because
he did a Ghostbuster cosplay in Stranger Things. Let's just get him for the film.
And then you've also got Paul Rudd as Gary Gruberson, which just seems like such a middle finger to surnames. It's just like the
Paul
worst
Rudd
kind of surname.
is such a like teacher character as well. Like, I think he just looks like a teacher. It's like, I know that sounds so weird to say, but he just generally
Well, I
looks
mean,
like
like
a
it
teacher.
works though. I mean, I know I'm saying this after I've seen the new Ghostbusters. I saw that last night. We will do a mini-sode when Dan can
Eventually
get around to
watches
seeing
it.
us. We're not
Hopefully, it
in a mad
won't be
rush for
like
that.
a year and a bit different.
Eventually.
But
You know, I've got space in next year's schedule. But you know, Paul Rudd doesn't have a whole lot to do in this one. He's got more to play with in Frozen Empire than this, but he's still just really likable. Which, to be honest, that kind of accounts to most of the cast, in particular with Phoebe as well, who could have easily come across as extremely annoying, given that she's like the nerdiest nerd that has ever nerded, but is still really likable, to be honest. And I think in terms of like the newest additions and the best things in the film, it's definitely McKenna Grace and Paul Rudd. I'm not sure how you feel on that.
I'd say McKenna Grace as the star, really. I mean, Paul Rudd's great. So is Finn, the Ghostbuster cosplayer. But nah, I think McKenna Grace is the star of it, and I just love that when you get introduced to Paul, what is he, like a geography teacher in this film or something?
Geography or science teacher or whatever.
Yeah, and like he's just in the back like doing
And he's
something
making
with
them
like
watch
seismic
Cujo.
readings, and then Phoebe just comes along and just utterly wipes the floor with him. He's like, I know what this is. It's like, oh dear, what is it then? And he's just like,
See,
huh?
right.
Ever since we've done that episode, that is just never ever gonna die now.
So yeah, so I mean, for the most part, the film does just focus on this new dynamic. Obviously, the original Ghostbusters are in this to a degree. I mean, you know, Ray Stantz gets a bit more to play in that he has one extra scene
Yeah.
compared to the other two, but I'll get to that when I get to my issues with the ending later. I'll say later, soon. That's how that, you know,
In
that's
approximately
how this thing
37
works.
seconds.
Yeah. The other thing I really appreciate with this one is, you know, considering I haven't seen any other film directed by Jason Reitman, I don't think, but he tends to do more character drama stuff than like a sci-fi horror blockbuster thing. Like he'd even said he had absolutely zero interest in being a part of this franchise. And even hearing him talk about the film behind the scenes, he'd said that Ivan Reitman was on set with him every single day watching all of the dailies, and he said that was extreme. I mean, like, it was useful, but also extremely difficult. Just like having your father watching your work every single day.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of like hell, to be honest. But what it means having him directing is that immediately there's a completely different feel to Afterlife, especially for the first half of the movie. It doesn't feel like the original films at all. And
But even the trailer does a good job of separating it from the original.
oh, I love the trailer. It was great. Yeah, I mean, even though you've got like the original sort of dialogue from like the advert that like the three Ghostbusters do when they're first on the TV, but it works. And even just the poster, well, at least the teaser poster, is one of my favorites ever. And it's just the Ecto 1 driving through the cornfield. Just that image, like that card that's so distinct with New York, all of a sudden just in a field, just like that alone, that's actually really effective.
Yeah.
And it did mean I was immediately far more interested. And it also did this thing that I remember them criticizing it with the 2016 movie, where that director Paul Feig said one of the reasons he decided to make it as a reboot was because he didn't like the idea of this new generation of characters taking on the tech from the original. And I was sat there thinking, that's kind of rubbish, to be honest.
Yeah,
like
what?
you absolutely can do that. Like, that doesn't work in my sort of head canon, because they already do new things with that tech anyway. I mean, hell, you've got the car chase through the street when they're chasing for Muncher, not Slimer. I don't like that name, especially when you say it out loud, and now saying it on the internet, it doesn't sound very good at all. There we go. Blue, not Slimer.
Blue,
Blue
not
Slimer.
Slimer.
We'll call him Bloomer.
Bloomer.
Bloomer. He
Just sounds like
they're
undead
chasing
underwear
a
now.
fucking loaf of bread. That entire chase sequence, is absolutely terrific. I thought it was like legitimately thrilling. And again, completely differentiated itself from the previous ones. They weren't really action movies by any means. They just happen to have a bit of action when they're just like throwing the proton packs at random things and hoping that something explodes and wins.
Yeah, I think.
Whereas with this one, it's actually
one is a lot more exterior compared to the original. I mean, as you say, there was some action stuff in the first one, but this one, definitely a lot more to it. But you got to get with the times. You can't really, get however much this film costs to make and then just make it like 90% inside, and then just like the other last like 20 minutes you go on the rooftop and you fight a giant, I don't know, spectral fruit pastel,
That just sounds like something from the Happiness Patrol.
Oh god, no.
To be honest. Which, I'm saying that having not watched it yet, I just know of the imagery of it.
It's something else, mate. It's
I imagine it's something else.
Oh, it is something.
But like I said, changing the setting and still, keeping a few things here and there does make me think of how Scream 6 worked. There is the other reference to Scream randomly, where that one shifted it from Woodsboro to New York. So it's actually ironic that this one used to be in New York, now it's somewhere else, whereas in Scream it was somewhere else and now it's New York. But just changing the setting can make it feel quite distinct. And, that film still had like its own sort of like checklist of things, but it's still, it still functioned. Now I'm going to get it. Now I'm going to get into my issues.
Ooh.
Because the issues were there on the first go. They were far more prevalent the second go around, and I think I really started to feel it. I think it was the final trailer because the film had done quite a good job, first of all, of being like its own thing, but also you're never really sure what the villain is supposed to be, because it's not going to be Bloomer. Like, he's just kind of pointless. We can't really have him be the villain, to be honest. So even watching the original trailers, I'm sat there thinking, okay, I don't know what they're going to do, to be honest. And then they bring in the Terror Dogs again. And I was like, right. Okay. I'm not totally against this, but I'm not a big fan of it. Because, like I say, when you look at the ending of the original Ghostbusters, and then you look at most of Ghostbusters 2, and even the remake as well, they all tend to end exactly the same way. I mean, hell, even the remake ends, I think it's like a mid-credit scene with a reference to Zool, and you're like, oh, don't you dare, just go away. Oh. So, of course, in this case, we've got not only the Terror Dogs, but we've also got Gozer. Back again. Although this time played by Olivia Wilde. As it turns out, which I just think is kind of hilarious. But once the Terror Dogs rock up, it's at that point where it's like, right, these are the bits from Ghostbusters that we recognise. Let's do that, 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 let's do that.
We've got Gozer, we've got Terror Dogs, now what we need is a giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. Oh, wait. We don't have a big one.
No, instead, we're going to have the mini ones.
We're going to have baby ones.
To be honest, they're actually quite cute. I'm really annoyed with myself that I find them really cute. I mean, just like the sequence of them just melting each other and turning each other into like ice cream sandwich things. I'm like, that is disgustingly morbid, but also really funny.
I think that makes me chuckle so bad because I wasn't expecting it. I think my reaction was when they're bloody turning each other into like mush. I think one of them gets microwaved at some point. I just went, oh my god, what the hell?
A little bit. It's such a weird idea to do that, to be honest. And, I actually don't mind that at all. I think it's like a nice callback, because let's face it, we've already done giant ghosts before. We've done the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, you've done the Statue of Liberty. I think there was one in the remake. Let's just make them tiny this time. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. I can work with that. Obviously, they're not the villain this time, as annoying as that would be. But then I'd constantly think of the adipose from Series 4 of Doctor Who, and just think it's literally just the adipose again.
Reminded me of the
except on a
adipose
bigger
from
budget.
Doctor Who, and I kind of hate that.
Yeah, because the adipose are, well, they are the adipose.
Yeah, they are.
But anyway, yeah, back to the AI written ending. Sorry, that's actually quite harsh. But yeah, I didn't really appreciate the fact that it just went with everything that we remember from the first film, because it just makes it sound more like an epilogue more than anything else.
Yeah.
And obviously with the reappearance of the Ghostbusters at the end, when Bill Murray and Ernie Hudson just appear out of thin air as if they are ghosts, because they bloody might as well have been, decked out in like the Ghostbusters outfits and everything, and I'm sat there thinking, this feels like this is supposed to be like a middle finger to the way the Star Wars does like the legacy stuff in the sequel trilogy, but I don't like this at all. It doesn't make any sense.
So you guys rock
like,
up now?
Whatsoever.
Seriously?
Yeah, exactly. But also, how did they rock up?
Yeah, they don't exactly have the like Ghostbusters mobile, do they?
The Ghostbusters mobile.
No, they don't.
Yeah, so I mean, as you know, as funny as some of the lines, especially from Bill Murray, is because Bill Murray is
the answer is they just took an Uber.
You know, yeah, they did. Ghost Uber.
Ghost Goober.
Goober. Yeah, and then obviously there's like callbacks to like, are you a god? And they're like, right, Ray, say yes this time. And he still says yes, and then like, they get blasted. But that is hardly my biggest issue with the film. I'll get into the biggest one now, because I am curious as to your feelings on this one, because I'm never sure if I'm just really nitpicky about this. Mm. So the film opens quite, you know, in actually quite good fashion, where we don't realize until the end that we're following a character trying to trap these ghosts at his farm. We never see his face, it's always in shadow. And then we realize it's Egon.
Yeah.
And we see him die. I mean, first of all, I actually like the fact he's killed technically by a heart attack. I actually think that's actually quite fine.
But the fact that he's like set all this stuff up and then he gets scared to death, I quite like that.
Yeah, because then immediately the tension's right up, because like if there's something that's going to freak him out enough that actually kills him, I'm like, okay, I'm there. Then you realise it's just the villain from the last one, so you're like, that doesn't really work for me. There's also the whole thing with the rest of the Ghostbusters not believing Egon when he says that something big is coming, and they don't believe him for a second, and I'm like,
you guys fought a giant marshmallow man in New York City. Are you serious? Anything is possible.
Well, exactly, like that. Mm-hmm. But my major issue, because you see across the film, Phoebe seemingly sort of interacting with Egon's ghost, but you never see him. He's basically treated like a poltergeist. And I was like, okay, that works, because we don't actually see him. And then it gets to the moments at the end when the three original Ghostbusters are trying to defeat ghosts, and they're not enough. And then Phoebe comes in, and it's quite a triumphant thing, like that, like that's her taking her place with like the rest of the Ghostbusters. And then you see a CGI Harold Ramis holding a hand. And at that point I was like, right, I kind of hate this now. Like, I didn't need to see him. I didn't think it was necessary. You kind of already had it with her, not necessarily taking like his place by any means, but
yeah,
like her arc is completed with that.
She is like the mini Egon, but I like the part where you see, you know, the whole thing of keeping him in the shadows and all that. Understandable, because he's sadly not with us anymore, so you can't say, okay, Harold, do this. Well, he's not with us anymore, so you know that's going to be difficult to do.
Mm-hmm. But
I quite like the bit where you see him in his ghostly form and his estranged daughter, and it's a nice bit of closure. But with the weird stuff with Phoebe, I wasn't too fussed on. I thought, you've kept him in the shadow all this time. I don't really need to see Ghost Egon. It's like Ghostbuster become the ghost.
Yeah, it's what it basically became, especially because, you know, we're told like the Ghostbusters didn't necessarily hate Egon like before like he passed away, but like they were very much like estranged with one another. So seeing them sort of like accept that he was right and all that sort of stuff doesn't really work for me, because it's not actually him. Like, not just it's a ghost of him, it's not actually him. It's just a CGI Harold Ramis, and I'm like, this is like manufactured emotional stuff, and I'm not there for that. I don't think it's justified. Again, it's one of those things, like, I know some people really loved it and
In
thought
the
it was
first
really
go, I
sweet.
thought it was really heartfelt,
I
but then second go, I thought, well,
Mm-hmm.
it's just a manufactured emotion, more or less.
Well, I mean, that's like that. I mean, even after the first go for me, I was like, okay, this is interesting. I'm not sure how I feel. And then, like, the more I thought about it, and then when I eventually rewatched it, like, 2 years later, I was like, yeah, no, I'm not there for that. And again, I wasn't sure if it was just me being really nitpicky, because, I mean, yeah, I mean, I love that original film. I don't, like, hold it to, like, unbelievably high regard by any means, but that sort of, like, nostalgia bit, and I really wasn't there for that. So when they announced they're going to do a sequel with this cast, I'm like, okay, please don't have another CGI Harold Ramis, for the love of God. And that's probably why I've always felt a bit more mixed on the movie than anyone else. I mean, I still like it.
Oh yeah, I'm
For
the same.
sure.
I don't
It's
hate
just-
it in any way, shape, or form. I just think it's an alright film. Like, it's entertaining enough for sure, but you know, the stuff towards the end, it just feels like it's every other Ghostbusters film. How many times are going to do this running joke before it gets stale? And I mean, it is clearly getting stale, considering
exactly.
the reactions from what the new one supposedly does. I wouldn't know. I haven't seen it, but clearly there's something going on in it.
Well, I don't think a lot of that criticism is justified, to be honest, but that's, you know, that could easily change once I think about it some more. I mean, in terms of my favourite moments, before we get into the other little silly things that we do, I'd say, like, my favourite moments are, you know, the ones I already mentioned, like the opening scene with Egon in shadow. That one's really solid.
Yeah.
Really tense. And the chase through the streets with the
I
Ecto
love
one
the
and
chase so
the
much. It's just so different from the original, because you've got New York City. So again, doing something like that in the original Ghostbusters is going to be absolutely chaotic. I mean, it's chaotic enough when they do the
Yeah.
outside stuff anyway. But in this, it's just a small town that gets absolutely, well, trashed by two youngsters who've stolen a decked-out hearse and are attempting to wrangle in a distant cousin of Slimer.
What about you, though? Have you got any other moments that you particularly like?
Well, yeah, I like the intro stuff, because it really sets the tone for it. It definitely feels like a lot more horrorish, but then it just kind of goes into a bit safe. Like, you know, it plays itself.
It's
a
a
bit
very
safe.
safe
Yeah,
movie.
yeah, for sure. I would have to say, when Phoebe and Podcast attempt to, well, try out the gear, and it doesn't quite go according to plan. It really does not go according to plan. It's like, there's a ghost in an abandoned factory. What could go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, I know I made the joke before about, you know, the idea that the second half of this film was just written by AI. That's doing a bit of a disservice, especially when we've used AI once again for this week's AI showdown prompty thingamajiggy bob thing. Not very subtle this week. I don't particularly care. I'm ill, so we'll just get on with it. So, I don't know about your prompt, Dan. Mine was write me a silly Ghostbusters film set on a farm. Though I know I went first last week with the assumption that mine would be the best. I don't even remember if it was or not. I can't remember what the hell was in mine.
I mean, I remember mine from last week, which was Dawn of the Dead, but for some reason, Fish just decided to become undead and take revenge against humans for exploitation reasons.
Yeah. So we'll kick things off with Dan's, because I'm quite keen to hear his. Hopefully there's minimal zombie fish people.
Oh, there's no zombie fish people in this one, unless I haven't read it correctly. But I have went over this a few times, so I'm fairly certain there's no zombie fish in this week's one. This is Ghostbusters Frozen Empire 2, Rise of the Evolved Spirits.
So you've done a sequel to the film you haven't actually seen yet.
I know.
What the okay. Right.
It even wrote me a little synopsis before, just giving me paragraphs of information.
Oh, adorable.
In the aftermath of the Ghostbusters' victory over the Frozen Empire, a new threat emerges. The ghosts adapt and harness the very technology meant to contain them, with spectral entities wreaking havoc once again. Oh god. The fate of humanity rests on the shoulders of two unlikely heroes. Michael Caine and Bill Murray.
Oh, fuck it. No. No. You have not done that. Oh,
The
cocking
streets
Nora.
of New York City were once again overrun by paranormal activity. A reference, maybe. But this time, it was different. The ghosts were wielding Ghostbuster technology with frightening efficiency, leaving chaos and destruction in their wake. Ectoplasmic proton beams sliced through the air, freezing buildings and trapping over civilians in ghostly containment fields. That just sounds very, very disgusting.
Oh, God.
Michael Caine, a retired Ghostbuster, had long hung up his proton pack. But when the city called for help, he knew he couldn't ignore the plea. Teaming up with his old friend and fellow Ghostbuster, Bill Murray, they embarked on a dangerous mission to confront the evolved spirits. As they delved deeper into the heart of the ghostly uprising, they encountered spectres unlike anything they've ever faced before. These entities were cunning, using the very tools the Ghostbusters used against them. Caine and Murray found themselves outmatched and outmaneuvered at every turn, but they refused to back down. Armed with their wit, courage, and a few modified proton packs of their own, Caine and Murray devised a plan to turn the tide of the battle. They lured the ghosts into a trap, leading them into a spectral containment field rigged to overload and neutralise their power. As Caine and Murray pressed forward in their mission to thwart the ghostly uprising, they encountered an unexpected adversary. A towering spectral cream egg haunting the streets of New York City. This monstrous confectionery creation oozed ectoplasmic filling and threatened to engulf the city in its sugary grasp. Well, that just sounds absolutely rotten, to be honest.
God,
With a mixture of disbelief and determination, Caine and Murray knew that they had to confront this giant, ghostly cream egg head-on. Armed with their proton packs and a healthy dose of skepticism, they braced themselves for the showdown of a lifetime. The massive egg-shaped apparition unleashed a barrage of sugary projectiles, sending, oh god, gooey streams of ectoplasm flying in every direction, dodging and weaving through the sticky onslaught. Caine and Murray realised that their tactics wouldn't be enough to defeat this otherworldly foe. Wait, it's hardly otherworldly, you've just mentioned he's a feckin' ghost like 4 times.
I was about to say.
Thinking fast, Caine remembered an old Ghostbuster trick from his days on the Force. With a wink to Murray, he shouts, "Let's give this egg a taste of its own medicine." With that, they activated the proton packs, modifying the beams to emit a stream of liquid nitrogen. Oh, the irony. As the freezing mist enveloped the giant cream egg, its ectoplasmic form began to solidify, turning brittle and translucent. With a final blast from their modified proton packs, Caine and Murray shattered the spectral shell, dispersing the ectoplasmic essence back into the ether. With the threat neutralised, Caine and Murray share a victorious fist bump, their proton packs crackling with residual energy. The streets of New York were once again safe, thanks to the bravery and quick thinking of these two unlikely heroes. As they walked off into the sunset, Caine couldn't help but chuckle. Who would have thought we'd be battling against a giant ghostly cream egg in our retirement? Murray grinned, clapping Caine on the back. When you're a Ghostbuster, you never know what kind of paranormal shenanigans you'll get yourself into. But one thing's for sure, as long as there are ghosts, there'll always be a need for guys like us. And with that, they disappeared into the night, ready to face what other otherworldly challenges awaited them. After all, when you're a Ghostbuster, the adventure never truly ends. Finn.
Oh, Christ so bloody mighty.
Yeah,
you know, I never think of just... all of a sudden, like,
You
I
just
know
lost
Michael
for words,
Caine
aren't
has
you?
actually retired, Yeah, I am. I usually am with yours because it's just like I don't know how AI figured out that might have been like an alright idea.
Crazy, yeah.
Cream egg though.
A spectral cream egg, yeah.
A spectral cream egg. Okay, to my knowledge, mine doesn't contain any cream eggs. I haven't read it yet. Because that's like the fascinating thing with this one is that I just gave it the prompt, I copied the text, pasted it into the document, and I've left it at that. I know the title, that's about it.
So this could literally be anything at this point now.
This could just be anything. All I said was, give me a Ghostbusters movie set on a farm. That's it. Didn't say to put in Michael Caine or Bill Murray, or... In fact, none of the Ghostbusters are actually in this, as I've had a quick scan. Instead, they're called something else. So, we've got Ghostbusters, Farm Frights, which almost sounds like a flavour of food, to be honest. But whatever.
Does actually, yeah.
Yeah. So, in a rural town nestled amidst rolling hills and endless fields, strange occurrences begin to disrupt the tranquility of Farmer Joe's farm. Farmer Joe, that's
Joe's farm.
Such a stereotypical name for a farmer, just Joe.
Yeah, the most stereotypical Farmer Joe.
Like, fair enough if like most farmers are called Joe, fine, but you know,
don't
a little bit of
be preaching
creativity.
your stereotypes, chap PT.
Yeah. Anyway, crops vanish overnight and eerie lights flicker in the barn. Desperate for help, Farmer Joe calls upon a trio of unconventional ghost hunters. The Farmbusters. Which sounds eerily close to the Dam Busters, of which are very different things. And it turns out,
Very different things.
or to swap out the Dam Busters with Ghostbusters and just see what happens after that. Just like the Ghostbusters committing air raids.
Yeah.
Gotta catch them all,
don't have like
guys.
proton packs, they just got freaking proton bombs. If this don't get the spirit, nothing will. As they nuke half a town in Colorado.
Yeah, why not? So the team comprises of Hank, the fearless leader and expert in capturing spectral critters. So he captures insects. Excellent.
God.
You've got Sally, the brainless botanist. Brainy botanist, not brainless. Oops.
Brainless.
Sorry, Sally. The brainy botanist who uses her knowledge of plants to concoct ghost-banishing potions. Mm-hmm. And Bubba.
Oh, no. No. See, no. Great, so it's...
That is what it says.
Farm Busters crossed with Men in Black. Wonderful.
Yep. The enthusiastic farmhand turned ghost wrangler, armed with his trusty lasso and a knack for roping in the supernatural. How does he do that? They're ghosts. Anyway. So, upon arrival, the farm busters are greeted by a chorus of clucking chickens and suspiciously jittery cows. The farm animals seem to sense the presence of something otherworldly. They're just cows. That's just what they do. They're just jittery and everything.
I don't know why they've just went with otherworldly. Like these scripts have stated on a few occasions that we're dealing with a ghost, not something otherworldly. Make your mind up.
Yeah, exactly. As night falls, the farm transforms into a playground for mischievous spirits. Cornstalks dance in the moonlight, and scarecrows come to life, chasing the terrified farm busters through the fields. If they're terrified by these things, these guys are hopeless. Like, at least fair enough in the original film, when they're running away from the librarian ghost, that's fine, because they haven't become Ghostbusters yet.
I imagine like the spinny leg Scooby-Doo cartoon kind of run. Yeah,
I should have done a crossover with Ghostbusters and Scooby-Doo. That would have been better. Bugger. I should have known. Amidst the chaos, the team encounters the ghost of Old MacDonald. The farm's original owner, as in the original owner of, as in the original owner of all farms, clearly, who's none too pleased with all of their meddling. Scooby-Doo reference again. There we go. He's determined to reclaim his land from the living and haunt it for eternity. He's gonna get bored really quickly. Like, who wants to haunt people forever? I wouldn't know. I'm certainly not a ghost. With a mix of ingenuity and sheer grit, probably from the gritter, the farm busters devise a plan to trap Old MacDonald and his spectral minions. Sally brews a potent potion, using ingredients sourced from the farm itself.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Talk about
Like-
resourcefulness.
Just like, well done, Sally. Open your eyes. While Hank and Bubba sets up an elaborate ghost trap fashioned from farming equipment. In a climactic showdown, the farm busters face off against Old MacDonald and his ghostly horde. Amidst flying hay bales and ghostly cackles, they manage to outsmart the spirits and seal them away for good. As dawn breaks over the farm, Farmer Joe emerges from his farmhouse to find his land restored to peace. Was he asleep the entire time?
Clearly.
Like, he's out like a log. I'm impressed.
Now, if this guy can sleep through hay bales getting chucked at his house and ghostly cackles in the night, he can sleep through anything.
Well, exactly. With a grateful smile, he thanks the farm busters for saving his livelihood. With their work done, the farm busters ride off into the sunrise, leaving behind a farm free from spectral shenanigans and a town forever grateful for their peculiar there we go, brand of heroism. Ghost Finn.
Ghost Finn.
Finn of Ghost.
Good grief.
Which is worse? As opposed to which is better, because
is at least it has some
things in
sensible
it.
quality to it, whereas mine is just out. Well, it's just bluntly fucking ridiculous, really.
See, yours at least has dialogue. Mine doesn't.
Yeah, but like, what happened to the other Ghostbusters? Why is it just Bill Murray and Michael Caine? And Michael Caine wasn't even a Ghostbuster. It's just like, oh yeah, Michael Caine. He was a secret Ghostbuster.
You know, actually,
He's
to
just
be
being
completely
cut
honest,
out of all the pictures and things you see.
To be honest, though, I actually give it this, is that I've always thought if you're ever going to continue the Ghostbusters as an actual franchise, you treat it as if Ghostbusters is a franchise as a company. So you have different branches of Ghostbusters across either America or, I don't know, the world. And so you could just have actual farm busters, you could have water busters, you could have fire busters, you could have sand busters. Which is just the plot of Dune, now I actually think about it, to be completely honest.
Yeah.
If there's something strange in the desert dunes, who are you gonna call? Ghost Fremen!
Yeah, I can just imagine like the infomercials and stuff like each business would have. I bet even Farmer Joe and his band of farm busters didn't even deal with him. They just locked him in a barn that he doesn't use anymore.
I'm picturing that.
So
Just
you
like,
can just
if
have
you...
this area.
Yeah, exactly. So usually at this point we do the whole thing of what would we do in this situation. So in this case, in the case of Ghostbusters Afterlife, what the hell are we going to do? I'll confess, I haven't done anything on that. I kind of completely forgot, to be honest. I'm ill, like I said, and I've been away. So, so over to Mr. Dan to salvage this operation.
Well, it depends on the standpoint. Like, am I going to be a Ghostbuster or am I just some random dude who just lives in this town?
Oh, all of a sudden I feel like being the random dude in this town is going to become our unlikely hero that might meet his end about halfway through.
Yeah, it seems like that is the more challenging approach because, like, imagine you're just at work in some, I don't know, let's just say some kitchen, and then all of a sudden...
in some kitchen?
Yeah, just in some
just
kitchen.
Just like a kitchen, just over there.
Yeah, just a kitchen, you know?
Just like a rando person's kitchen.
Just a kitchen
don't
in
even
the
know
back
I'm there.
of the American version of B&Q.
Q&B.
Q&B.
But
you know, the back kitchen in Q&B. And, you know, you're just sorting the stock, doing whatever, and then out of nowhere there is just a blue floating thing. What on earth do you do?
Freaking run. Or...
Yeah, like that.
Or
like
actually,
with a Ghostbuster, I feel like, this is an easy resolution, you know?
No, actually, I feel like what you'd do is either, you might actually criticize the resolution of the ghost because it might not be in true 4K. We have no idea. Or treat it like the bus scene in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where, like, instead of being scared, they just start taking a video of it.
Just start live streaming it.
It's like, just like, all right, I'm here in the kitchen, and there's a ghost here again.
I told you
Or
guys it
whatever
was real.
live streamers do. I've got no idea. I told you
Look, he's
the
eating my
blue guy
lunch.
was real. Next scene, it's going to be his lunch.
And then it's like, what the hell do you do when there's a giant storm cloud and some evil god trying to enslave the human race? It's like, well, do I just pack up and move?
What would you usually do? I would say just sort of like kneel down and just like prepare for the worst, or just accept that things aren't going to get any better, so you just kind of get on with life, and there just happens to be a giant god just like looking through your window at every single occasion, just like, are you worshipping me? Are you worshipping me? I'm picturing something like that.
Business is slow. Me mortgage is coming up. What have I got to live for? Take me now.
Yep, just like the mortgage rates are up, the VAT's up, healthcare is gone, and there's also a god staring at me at every single waking moment of my life. So overall, I'm actually going to give this town a 9. All of a sudden, that became a "come dine with me" reference. I don't know where that
Yeah, I
came
was going
from.
to say it. Why did this become...
Come
and
dine
Ghostbuster
with my
with
god.
Come and ghost hunt with me.
Come and go.
Well, I think it was a quaint little town, and then a demon dog bashed through the window. So I'm gonna give Ghostville a 6.
Oh, just a 6. Oh, okay, that's all right then. Needed more terror dogs.
Would have been nice if my insurance would have came through. Otherwise, I would have gave it a higher score.
Ah, yes. The terror dog crashed through my car, and then the insurance didn't cover it, so now it's a 4.
I've lost half my stock. I'm gonna give it a 3.
Okay, all of a sudden, is this going to become the new running joke, and we're just going to do come dine with me film edition?
I sincerely hope not.
I really hope not as well, but that's entirely a thing now. Who knows?
I'm just expecting like reviews now. It's like Regan reviews. It's like you get through the whole thing. So I'm gonna score a Ghostbusters Frozen Empire a 3.
I actually gave it a 6, maybe a 7. Who knows? Okay. Well, for the sake of convenience, if you've gotten one for what to do if you're an actual Ghostbuster, have you got one of those?
Well, I feel like I would be like the apprentice Ghostbuster. Like I've just rocked up. What can I do? I'm probably going to be a bigger danger to them than the ghosts are.
You're going to be a bigger danger than the nuclear accelerator on the back of all the Ghostbusters.
Let's be honest. I'm going to hit the nuclear accelerator, not the freaking ghost. Let's be honest.
Yeah, you are.
It's like there's a ghost in that house over there, and I just end up blowing up some poor old woman's house. No, not that house. The other one. The one that looks creepy and haunted, not the one with flowers and busting with life inside of it.
Ah, typical. Just typical.
Typical apprentice.
Typical apprentice. Whenever we do these, because of course it's always going to end in terror. It's either going to end in terror dogs and come dine with me results, or you're just going to release a nuclear warhead on your back at every single turn. So overall, you'd be a pretty good Ghostbuster for a short film.
Yeah, very short film.
But also to answer the question of could we actually be a good Ghostbuster? No, we couldn't. If that wasn't,
I think I'd handed me
enough.
notice as soon as I get covered in ectoplasm. I'm just like, I quit.
just like I'm not even going to give you a 2-week notice. I've literally got my shoes on, so no. Ta-ra.
Here, take your
But I'm keeping
stupid
the car.
nuclear weapon. I'm going.
I'm keeping the car and I'm keeping the costume, and you know what? Just for fun,
I'm keeping
gonna
the
keep
car.
the gun.
I'm keeping the
without
overalls
nuclear
when I
warhead on the
change
back.
the oil in the car. I'm done. Goodbye.
And I'm keeping the shoulder pads. I'm keeping the elbow pads. I'm keeping all those.
I'm keeping everything bar this potential nuclear warhead.
Exactly. yeah, so I think that wraps up our thoughts on a bit of Ghostbusters Afterlife, as well as, you know, could we be a Ghostbuster, and also can we write a Ghostbusters film? No on all those fronts, if that wasn't obvious enough. So thank you very much for listening. If you have gotten through to this was a fairly fun one to discuss. This is such a silly one. So next week, because we've got another monkey movie and lizard movie and just some crap going on in that, we thought we'd take a look once again at a bit of the Godzilla franchise. Although I was thinking, do we do Godzilla vs Kong? No, we're not going to do that. We'll talk about that later on in the year and why I don't like it. Instead, we're going to look to the first time that these two titans of fluff and reptilian scales and costumes and suitmation and rubbish like that, by looking at the film from 1962, that being King Kong vs. Godzilla, otherwise known as the first time we ever saw both King Kong and Godzilla in colour, as it turns out. Every single time prior to that was in black and white. Did that make it better? Who knows? We'll find out. We'll talk about that next week. So thank you very much for listening. We'll see you then, and until then, it's goodbye from Dan.
Ta-ra.
And it's goodbye from me. Goodbye.